Supporters of the repeal of the death penalty gathered at the State House to witness the State Senate vote to override Governor Sununu's veto.
The question is now, notwithstanding the governor's veto, shall House Bill 455 FN become law? Is there any discussion? Senator LeBate to speak.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Other reasons for not supporting the death penalty I learned later on in life was that there's a great cost to it. It actually costs more money to have somebody on the death penalty than it does to go to prison for life because of the many appeals that one would go through. So it is more costly. And then most recently, I heard stories from families who had lost loved ones, and they did not want the death penalty. They did not feel that it was a way to honor their loved ones. I'm truly touched by this, and I feel stronger than ever, I know many of you do, that this is the time to repeal the death penalty. The House has voted to override the veto, and now it's up to us to stop this practice that is archaic, costly, discriminatory, and violent. I urge you all to vote to override this veto.
We are very careful about how we use the death penalty in New Hampshire. One time has it been used, 1939. It has not been used since then. We're very judicious and very, very careful. Our law enforcement people see this as a deterrent. Sociologists will give you both sides of the issue, whether it is or whether it isn't. But indeed, I stand firmly in support of the death penalty as it is applied in New Hampshire. This is where I live. This is where I'm going to die. This is where my children are here. This is where my grandchildren are. This is where my great-grandchildren are. I want them protected. I believe that sustaining the death penalty is the right thing to do.
Senator D'Alessandro.
No.
Senator Fulafar.
Yes.
Senator Morse.
No.
Senator Morgan.
Yes.
Senator Sherman.
Yes.
Senator Simpson.
Yes. The ayes have it. The governor's veto of House Bill 455 FN is overridden by the necessary two-thirds vote.
Following the override vote, we sat down with State Rep. Rennie Cushing of Hampton, who has worked tirelessly for the past 20 years to get the death penalty repealed in this state. So how are you feeling now that you've finally been able to, you and your supporters have finally been able to get this death penalty repealed in this state? How's that for yourself?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's quite set in yet, but I do take it as a sign of optimism and hope. I think when you've been working for a couple of decades to try to change policy in the state of New Hampshire, and that moment comes when history catches up with your aspiration, it's gratifying. That I think that the more people learn about the death penalty, the less there is to like. I think it's been a gradual public education process over the past 2 decades, led in many ways by family members of murder victims who oppose the death penalty, led by members of law enforcement who realize it doesn't work to protect public safety, led by the faith community, and I think inspired by survivors of death row, people who are wrongfully convicted and condemned and can put a public face on the flaws of a criminal justice system that needs to be carried out in a way that mirrors perfection.
Do you think that by eliminating the death penalty, that, as some people posit, that takes away a deterrent?
There's absolutely no evidence that the death penalty is a deterrent. If it was, Houston, Texas would be the safest city in the country because that county sends more people to death row than any other jurisdiction, so that's just not based on facts. The question about the death penalty is an issue that has transcended traditional political lines. I mean, for the past couple decades when I've been working to repeal the death penalty in New Hampshire, I've always done it in collaboration with Republicans. I remember it was a Democratic governor who vetoed a previous death penalty repeal bill that was passed by a Republican House. And so historically it's just been a matter of conscience. People come to their position, I think, through deeply held convictions, and sometimes they happen to be opposite conclusions. So I prefer to think that it's a matter of conscience rather than just crass politics.
Now, has your opinion of the death penalty evolved, or is this something you've pretty much carried from the beginning?
I always opposed the death penalty. I think it was challenged when my father was murdered to the extent that it became something that was no longer an intellectual exercise for me. I had to think about what do you do when a loved one's been murdered. But I remember something happened shortly after my father's killer was arrested, when an old family friend came up to me in a corner grocery store and said that I hope they fry the killer. I hope they fry the killer so that your mother and your family can get some peace. And I didn't know how to respond at that moment because this guy had known me my whole life. He'd known before my father was murdered that I opposed the death penalty. But here he was, offering me some kind of solace by wishing that there was an execution for the killer. And as I thought about that, I realized that if I did that, if I changed my position on capital punishment because my father was murdered, that would only compound the crime. Because not only would my father be taken from me, but so too would my values.
Yeah.
And so that's something I think it's for society as well as individuals. If we let those who kill turn us into killers, then evil triumphs and we're all losing.
Yeah.
And yet, once in a lifetime, that longed-for tidal wave of justice will rise up, and hope and history rhyme. This is a moment when hope and history rhyme.
For In Depth New Hampshire, I'm Bob Lepre.